Hey there, a very warm welcome to Supercharged Fridays. How are you? Where are you? Come in and say hi in the comments. Don't be shy. If you're watching the replay, welcome anyway. And as you can see, I have someone special with me today who's graced us with his presence on Supercharged Fridays. And I'm going to introduce Kevin in a second. But before I do that, I would love for you to give us lots of hearts and likes and applauses, not just because we are egomaniacs and we like it, but also because the algorithm gets a kick. And then more people see this because I think this is a very helpful session. And if we haven't met before, my name is Sonal. I'm a career coach. I am in Brussels and we are live right now on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And with me is Kevin Turner, but Kevin D. Turner, because there was somebody very famous who's an NFL player called Kevin Turner, and that's why we are very specific about Kevin D. Turner. But Kevin, I'm glad to know he's retired now, so there's less confusion.
Oh, yeah. He's still a guy at Microsoft.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Walmart. So.
Oh, I see. I see. And Kevin, I'm going to let you introduce you, but I also want to say that if there's somebody on this platform who understands this platform as much as Kevin, please let me know who this is because I'd love to also meet this person. But Kevin's been training people on LinkedIn since 2005. And I think maybe there's people I can count on one hand who know LinkedIn as well as you do. So lots of applauses to Kevin, please. Not just because he's generous with his time, but it's also 7 in the morning for him. And he's been up for a couple of hours. So please welcome Kevin. And Kevin, thank you so much.
Sonal, thank you very much. I really appreciate being here. It's an honor and excited. It is pitch black outside. Normally I can see the sunrise on downtown Dallas, but right now I can't see anything. So it is early, but it is definitely a great time to be with you.
Perfect. Thank you. The honor is all mine. And I see comments coming in and I see people from literally different parts of the world. Akshay is in India. Subrata, hi. Very warm welcome, Rajiv. Kiash is in South Africa. Volkan's in Turkey. And it's gonna go more and more because we have a bit of a delay. So let's get started. Kevin, we're gonna talk about all things LinkedIn today. So we're gonna completely geek out. I got my notepad. I'm literally here with my pen and paper. I'm ready to take notes and learn because I'm like, yeah, I think I understand this platform, but every day we get surprised. We learn a few more things, and that's the idea today. So quickly say hi, and then we're going to get going because these are wonderful people, Kevin, that take time out every single Friday to join us, and it's absolutely lovely. Shivangi, Farhan, Books, Prashant, hi guys, very warm welcome. So Kevin, before we get started into all things LinkedIn, we want to know a little bit more about you. So tell us about you and your career and the role LinkedIn has played in it.
That's a lot of stuff.
And you can take about 120 seconds.
There you go. I've always been a person fascinated by technology and society and communication. And, my background is in marketing. It is in brand kind of building for organizations and for people. And that has always kind of fit into what LinkedIn was all about. And I joined LinkedIn very early on in 2005. I have been training people, again, as you said, since about that time. And I find it a fascinating opportunity. But my background, 13 years with Sony Corporation, national sales manager, went through a process where I went into venture capital and started a company in data management, traveled the world, worked with data commissioners all over the world, and sold that company. Went into turnarounds, corporate turnarounds, private equity, then into larger private companies to help them turn around and sell them, and actually ended up in nonprofit with the American Heart Association. I led their international division, helped them go from just US based into 140 countries, built the offices in Hong Kong, United Arab Emirates, in Belgium, in Puerto Rico to service everything outside of the 50 United States. All that time I was traveling a lot. I was always using LinkedIn. And to me, LinkedIn always pulled back to you can't be everywhere all the time, except for on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has no borders, right? It gets you out globally. You can communicate, you can keep up with people, you can, I think, build relationships that normally you're not given the time to because of travel. And, I left American Heart Association. I was traveling 80% of my month, and I was home one weekend a month trying to raise a family, and it was too much. And, I decided to start working with my wife, who's been a writer for over 20 years, and we decided to work together, and that's where we got into what we do today. And my expertise in the whole process is really the digital branding and LinkedIn. How do you basically attract business to you and relationships to you? So, it's one of the few platforms out there really for no money invested at all. You can create a brand, you can go global, right? And you can build your own business. And, to me, that's what I think is one of the greatest things about LinkedIn.
Absolutely. I love that. And such a varied career, right? So in, consumer electronics and then American Heart Association and nonprofits. And now you have your own company, Turner and Turner, which is you and your wife, and that's TNT. In case anybody's wondering, that's Kevin's company, and it's doing really well. So I'm going to give a quick shout out, and I'm going to get started because I have lots of questions. I'm going to say a quick shout out to Michael. Michael was our guest last Friday on Superchat Fridays, and we talked about emotional intelligence, and he was brilliant. Hi, Michael. Nice to see you. So Kevin, let's talk about, there's these myths and then there's facts. Okay. And I'm not saying two versions of facts, but the truth. There's only one truth. And then there's different myths going on for so many years around LinkedIn, and you hear them. So tell us a little bit about that, because we are a very mixed group of people. We are people who are ambitious senior professionals listening to you right now. We are also job seekers here. So we're fresh graduates, but we're also, seniors. So for everyone, I'm asking such an impossible thing, but nevertheless, I'd like to know what these myths are.
And can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
So myths surrounding LinkedIn, myths versus
myths.
Myths.
Absolutely. I think the biggest myth that people believe LinkedIn is I can post my resume on LinkedIn, I can put a picture up there, and things will happen for me.
Yeah.
That's the biggest myth. It's good to be there.
Yeah.
If that's all you do, you're losing the full opportunity. And, it is really about communicating, engaging, building community. That's where the power of LinkedIn comes in. If you're just using it as a poster board for your resume, not much will happen. So that's probably the biggest myth. The other myth, I think, and people don't realize it, is LinkedIn is one of the few places where you can network and meet and build relationships with industry leaders, thought leaders, that normally if you tried to pick up the phone or you send them an email, they wouldn't talk to you. It would just, it would never start as a relationship. But on LinkedIn, you have the ability to build that relationship, much like you do with your neighbors, right? You run into them here and there, you say hello, hi, and it builds up into a conversation, and then maybe, bigger things, and you have them over for dinner, right? Yeah. LinkedIn is the same way, but you've got the opportunity to really figure out who do you want to network with. And to me, that's an incredible thing. And again, the myth that you can't do it is incorrect. It does take time, right? And you have to know what you're doing. You have to have your targets ready, and you've got to really spend the time to culture, to nurture, to effectively add value in that process, right? And that's, how you bust that myth, I guess.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And very much related to that, I think there's one more myth that many people have, which is also something that prevents people from posting content. And that is that it's meant for very corporate, buttoned up suit and tie type of people. Mm-hmm. And now it's become this mixture, and it's, I see people on this platform that are killing it, but they don't belong to that corporate senior or, buttoned up type of category. Any views on that?
That's like community in general, right? You have all levels within a community. You have also, I think, sometimes what we think of as very corporate, very buttoned up. They're people.
Yeah.
If you touch them as people, right? You connect with them as people. Those kind of stodgy, protective devices in the suits, they go away and they become people, and you build relationships through that.
Absolutely. And you said something to me the other day, and I'm going to ask the audience here, and it's a little bit unrelated, but I still think it's interesting because many people don't know this. How do you think, to everyone who's watching, how do you think LinkedIn is making money today? What is their biggest source of revenue? So I know we have a few seconds delay so we'll read your comments in the meantime, but do let us know what you think. How is LinkedIn making money? Number one source of revenue for LinkedIn. Let's see, Kevin, what people say, because I was wrong with this one when you asked me this question. And something to learn. And there is a takeaway from there as well, right, Kevin? And you'll help us understand that.
Absolutely.
Good. Okay. Let's talk about features. And I know the comments are going to roll in 30 seconds later. Let's get deep into the there's so many things that are changing on LinkedIn. Things that weren't there at the start of the year, and now we take them for granted, but not everybody knows those features. And you have like a huge laundry list, and I'll post them in the comments as well because you posted something yesterday. Talk to us about how we can make the most of the platform with some of these new features that that you see people are still not aware.
And absolutely. And the one thing you should expect with LinkedIn is it will change, right? They're adding new things all the time. They're trying to perfect it. You don't have to use every single feature.
Yeah.
That's what people think is a new feature. I have to use it. Use the ones that work for you. Use the ones that you feel comfortable using, or maybe they challenge you and get you out of your comfort zone too. But use the ones that are going to work for you, that are going to help you communicate with your audience. Yes. And that's the best way to approach them, because there are so many. If you try to use everything that LinkedIn puts out there, there's almost too much, right? Yeah. And that's what people have a tendency to do, is they say, this is just too much. I'm just going to post and my resume and leave, because it's too many things. You don't have to try to take on all of them. Yeah. A couple of my favorites right now that have come out just recently in the last few days. Now, of course, these are on staggered rollout, which means I might have it or you might have it, but not everybody's going to have it. But at some point, everybody will. Yeah. The reason LinkedIn does that, obviously, is if they rolled it out to 710 million members and it didn't work, they'd have 710 million people very upset with them. So they roll it out in small chunks, and as it becomes successful, maybe they make an adjustment or two, then they roll it out further. So all these are on staggered rollout.
Yeah. Before you go deeper, Kevin, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second, because I got some of those answers question that I asked earlier. One answer was what they charge recruiters. Somebody else says, Meenakshi saying revenue from companies doing recruiting. It looks like they do understand pretty well, because I didn't get this right. What about learning? LinkedIn Learning. Premium profiles was my answer, Maruti. That's what I thought. Mm-hmm. Ads, advertising, Microsoft bought LinkedIn. Yeah, but the number one, I don't see your name, LinkedIn user, but the number one way that LinkedIn does make money is not from premium subscription, but it's from Talent Solutions, which is the product used by recruiters. So everybody who answered, you got that right. So, but nevertheless, talk to us, Kevin, about those staggered features. Yes, that not everybody has today.
Definitely, the one that I know a lot of people have waited for and have been asking for since I've been on LinkedIn since 2005 is an away message, so that if your first level connections are trying to communicate with you, it will respond back to that first level connection. If they communicate to you through Messenger, it will tell them that you're out of the office for the time that you choose, and allow you to customize a message.
Oh, I see.
It doesn't tell everybody, which is nice, because sometimes you don't want everybody to know you're not at home or you're not in the office, right? It only communicates with the first level. I always tell people be hesitant of that because there is some privacy issues with it. But
Yeah.
for some people, it is a very good tool because they don't want to have people that have relationships with them on LinkedIn thinking they're ignoring them. So
Right.
that's a new tool. It's Set Away Message is what it's called, and
Yes.
it is available on, again, staggered rollout.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know because where I'm living, I think in most parts of continental Europe, we don't have any of these. We don't have stories. We don't have the away. But if you guys have it and you haven't seen it before, can you please mention it in the comments, or if whether you have it or not, it'll be good for us to know if you can mention it in the comments. The away message, so people are not like, hey, why aren't you getting back to me?
Now, one thing I find fascinating, and this has really just happened in the last year, LinkedIn has finally started testing, right, new features on an international level. So I know people may be aware of stories, right? That was actually tested first in Brazil,
Brazil.
and
Yes.
then moved into Europe, and
Yes.
now has finally reached the United States 6 months after the start.
Yeah.
So,
And here in Europe it hasn't even reached, by the way.
yeah, and I know that Away Message is they're targeting it internationally first, and then bringing it into the U.S.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to see that happening. One of the reasons was the U.S. is tired of being the guinea pig for some things that really didn't always work, or they worked really well, but then LinkedIn decided not to keep them.
Yeah.
We went through the process of testing them, getting used to them, right, and then they might have taken them away.
Yeah.
And so there's a good and a bad to being the test department, right?
There is definitely, and I think whether we have access to stories or not, Kevin, a lot of people who do have access in the US or in the Western Hemisphere, can you share? And like, I don't have access, but I'd love to learn from you if you see some people making very common mistakes on how they treat stories. Do you have any opinions on that?
Stories is kind of an unusual system in itself. I mean, it's mobile app only, right? It comes up in the order of who placed a story last, so you have to actually scroll through. If you have a large network, it can be very daunting, right?
Yeah.
But I think because it is just a 20-second segment of time, right? There are some people who are trying to use it every single day, and they're pushing themselves. Now, I think they'll get better at it, right? But I often wonder if, they're doing themselves a little more harm than good because they're not really planning what that story is going to be about. I can tell I'm going to do 20 seconds this morning before I have my coffee. And maybe they do it after they have their coffee.
Yeah.
Get a plan. And that's with any type of content on LinkedIn, whether you are writing articles, whether you're writing posts, whether you're creating video, whether you're doing stories.
Yeah.
It's smart to think about who is your audience, right?
Yes.
Who are they? Why do you want them, right? What can they do for you? What can you do for them? What value can you add for them? Figure those things out and start planning your content, or at least the focus of your content. And that's the biggest mistake I think I see in stories is there are great people trying this and they don't have a focus yet.
Yeah.
And so one day it's about this, another day it's about, walking my dog. The next day it's about, something that deals with business, and there doesn't seem to be a focus. And I think it's a tough way to build a brand if you don't have a focus that people can say, I can go to for now for this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really what you want to build. You want to build that focus so people can rely on what you are going to help them do better every day.
Right. No, it makes perfect sense. Who is your audience? What can you do for them? Why should they care? And plan your content. And what you're saying, Kevin, is I think it's kind of the Instagram hangover because stories is an Instagram feature, and it doesn't have to have a point. Although I disagree even on Instagram, but here if you have an intention rather than just, enjoy your coffee, that's fine. I mean, if you're a business owner, you're making millions, you're just sharing, you don't need to. But most of us are not business owners who are making millions, right? So it's like we use it, but we're like, okay, what do I want my audience walking away with? That's what you're saying. Have an intention in that before you start typing, or at least after your morning coffee when the brain has been given some caffeine. So makes perfect sense. I'm so sorry, I don't know your name, but she's, he or she's saying, but you're not missing anything. I've got both features, the away and the stories. Because I'm like, oh, I'm getting this FOMO because I'm like, missing out. And Meenakshi says in Virginia, given that talent solutions is the number one revenue stream for LinkedIn, I'm disappointed that they continue to let old postings remain active. And sometimes with the actively recruiting, oof, I posted about, yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's not. It doesn't make sense considering that if that is the cash cow, that. But anyway, we're on the platform. It's understood what you're saying. If you have any comment, Kevin, feel free to share.
Well, I first of all, I think people, and maybe this goes back to the myth about LinkedIn being a social good platform. It's not Craigslist. It's not, it's not really a social good platform. It is a business.
Yes.
And sometimes we have to realize that we have a great opportunity, right, to network, to communicate, to do all these things on a business platform. And we need to understand that they do have to make money. The basic business model on LinkedIn is based on 6 degrees of separation. Within 6 handshakes, I can meet anybody in the world. Right. And the more first level handshakes I have, the fewer overall I have to have. So you can reduce that 6 to 4, those kind of things by having a larger network. And that's why people try to expand their networks.
Yes.
If you think about it, the business model for LinkedIn is I will only let you see up to 3 handshakes,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I can charge you for the other 3 or the other 3 for you. That is the business model behind LinkedIn.
Yes.
It has become the world's largest database, some 710 million members strong, of professional resumes. That is the real data value, or the core data value behind LinkedIn. And that's why Talent Solution is 60% of this $20 billion revenue, that they generate. I still don't think they're profitable, but they're doing $20 billion in revenue. That's 60%. That is the focus of everything on LinkedIn. And the way LinkedIn is put together, if you think about it, if you ran a store and one product sold 60% of your business, you would pay a lot of attention to that product. You'd always make sure it was in stock. You'd always make sure it had the front shelf, right? You'd always make sure that it was available and you could explain it. And that's where LinkedIn is. If you can think about that, it helps you understand what you need to do on LinkedIn to become a better product for LinkedIn, right? Because they're going to sell you to recruiters. That's what they do.
Yes.
And if you can take it in that sense, that lets you know, perfect my profile, right? Make sure it's completely complete, that it's got everything in there that is available for you to put in there that you have, that you can, right? So you want to fill it out completely because that makes you a more perfect product for LinkedIn, right? The better you are as a product for LinkedIn, the more LinkedIn does for you as a member.
Yes.
So one of the things I've always found fascinating, the little gray box in people's profile, right? Down in their work results or their work experience, if they have that little gray building box, right? That actually tells LinkedIn that perhaps you were not connected with a real company at the time because no logo pulled over. It wasn't attached to an official business page. If you think about LinkedIn, it is a database in its process, right? And that signals LinkedIn that during that time frame where that little gray box is, perhaps you were unemployed. If their main revenue,
very important. What you're saying is very important. Kevin, I'm just taking a second. What you're saying is really important. And I'm going to share my screen so people understand what we're talking about. So here in your experience section, you just have to make sure that the company that you've been working in is not a little gray building, which looks like you've not been employed.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, Kevin, is that if it is that gray building here, then you're actually getting penalized by
Yes,
LinkedIn. You're not
you're
getting
ranking,
shown.
your status within LinkedIn as a product to sell is going down.
Yeah,
Therefore, your profile is harder to find,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
everybody's on LinkedIn to be found in a way, right?
yes,
And so
100%.
you want to make sure you go through there. Now, there are many ways to take care of that situation.
Yeah,
Sometimes if you work for a company that went out of business, right? If they were acquired by another company,
yeah,
you can use the logo of the new company.
yeah,
And there's a way of writing over the name of the company that says, XYZ acquired by
yeah,
the current company. And it will
yeah,
bring a company page in and change your status within LinkedIn so that your rankings go up.
yeah.
That's actually in the list that you're going to provide of kind of new features. Technically, it's not really a feature, it's somewhat of a hack of a feature.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
sometimes
No,
we have to work the extra angles to make
no,
sure
absolutely.
we're
We
getting a fair
want to be
chance.
found. We want to be found. And I talk about this all the time here on the Friday live stream. LinkedIn is a search engine, and don't put stuff on LinkedIn and expect to be found. Work in such a way. And this is what you're saying is SEO. It's search engine optimization for
Absolutely.
us. We are the product. And I love that. Meenakshi, that you're taking this away. The better the product you are, the better it is for you. And it's like, help me help you. It's like LinkedIn is saying that,
Mhm.
with Jerry Maguire goggles, and it makes perfect sense.
Well,
So
absolutely.
that hack that you're talking about, I mean, it can save the day. You can be found. See, these are things that we have Kevin here for, because we don't know this stuff always. And when you've been working on LinkedIn related stuff as long as Kevin, this never occurred to me either. Yes, exactly. And that's the whole point. And I have a question. Hey, Greg, what do you put if you're unemployed today? You have to have something to keep the all star status. Excellent question, Greg. And we talk about that. But Kevin, I'd love to hear your views.
Absolutely. And Greg, it's an excellent question because, again, when you do go unemployed, right,
Yeah,
you're basically doing the same thing as leaving that little gray box.
exactly.
So there are different opportunities. There is a group called Oh No, right?
Hashtag oh no. Yeah.
Yes, which basically means you're looking, right? They do have a company page. You can link to the company page, use whatever title it is that you had or you're looking for as your title there,
Mhm.
and you can connect that. That takes you out of that stigma within the database of unemployed, right? You can also create your own company
Yes.
and create a company page, right? So it could be you consulting. I caution people if you don't, or if you're not actually consulting, the question's going to come up, right? So only do it if you are, or if you're trying to consult, but you can create your own company page and bring that over. If you are in the process of looking for a job, often it's great to join, let's say, a temp service, right? That can bring you out, whether that temp service is interim CEO or whether it's, a technology seat, right? All levels, but you can do that, and then you can link to that temporary opportunity company to kind of fill the gap. Maybe
Yeah.
they're only using a few hours a week, but it will fill that gap and allow you not to be unemployed. Now,
Yeah.
the reason that's important, and this is kind of interesting, recruiters, right? And that's the main business of LinkedIn is selling to recruiters. A recruiter is paid by a company to go out and steal somebody away from the competitor and bring them back, right? And that's why the company will pay them anywhere from, let's say, 10 to 50% equivalency of your first year salary.
Yeah.
That's what the company is doing. And they're saying, go out and get this person. if a recruiter brings back somebody who is unemployed, the first thing the company says is, why am I paying you so much money? Because if Sonal was interested in us as a company, we would already know her by now. She would have already reached out to us by now. So she is obviously not really interested in us. So why are we paying you?
Right.
Recruiters only have to have that discussion once or twice, and they will never do it again. And it's why many times you'll see at the bottom of a recruiter job posting, it'll say at the bottom sometimes, unemployed need not apply.
Gosh, a lot of strong things that important things and some strong things here, Kevin, and thank you for bringing this up. And Marianne, I think you're ahead of me because I was just going to come to that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being unemployed. No. But what are we talking about here? We're talking about the system, and the system is unfair. Let's be clear on it. There is a bias against unemployed people. Is it right? Is it wrong?
They are, they're feeding their customer, right? If their customer only wants employed.
Yeah. And we're not going to get into, exactly. And we're not going to get into the fact that the bias is wrong, 100% wrong, but it exists today. So we don't have time to discuss why the bias exists. That's a completely different tangent. But the point is, because it's there, you got to do whatever you can to be found. And if there is a huge bias against unemployed, these are different hacks you can do to help you to be seen. It's not right. It's not fair, but it's the real world.
Yeah.
And Kevin, I have another question, which is a follow-up of what I have lots of questions here, in fact, coming. We're going to get to you guys, don't worry. Related to the unemployed thing, let's say if I've been laid off, which is a highly likely thing in today's scenario, there's some sort of unspoken thing in LinkedIn that I can keep my company name for a few more months, even though I'm no longer with the company. There's some sort of unspoken. I've told my clients 2 months. Mm-hmm. But do you have any views on that and how long they can continue to look like they're employed there?
But when you do that, right, you are taking somewhat of a risk. And you have to calculate the risk because employed, again, within the LinkedIn system is always going to be promoted. Right? It's always going to have a better ranking. It's always going to be pushed towards the recruiters. So your opportunity increases, right? But when you do that, you take a chance. Let's say a recruiter from one of the large recruiting firms, let's say Korn Ferry, sees your profile and says, wow, so now you're perfect for this. Yeah. You say you're here at this company, right?
Yeah.
They do their check upon you before contacting you, or maybe even after they contact you, and they found out you left the company 60 days ago, or 30 days ago, or even a week ago, right? But when they have a conversation with you, you don't mention it. On your LinkedIn, you say you're there, right? That recruiter within that organization, and that organization has 800 plus recruiters, right? They all use the same database. What that recruiter may do, and most of them will, is they'll put a note in the database. Sonal didn't tell me the truth.
Blacklisted. Blacklisted.
And then you become kind of labeled, right, as someone not to trust within that recruiting firm. And so that's your gamble.
Yeah.
We know it. When we do it, we know it. We know it's not right. So sometimes there's maybe a better angle to look. And I say, I've always said 30 days is about the most you can run with it. And if somebody asks you, you basically have to tell them on first conversation, I left there 10 days ago, 15 days ago, 28 days ago. Right. But I think anything more than that, you can't use that excuse. I just haven't updated my profile yet. We live in a more digital world now. And so people are not buying that excuse anymore, I think, as much as they used to.
I understand that, and just to clarify, when I said 2 months, I meant, see, you're given a notice period by the employer, so you may not be working with them, but your contract is still, for example, 30th November, and show it. It's personally, I would do that because I'm, even though I no longer am with them because I was asked to leave with immediate effect, for example. But anything longer than that is misleading. It's under false pretenses. There's a very high chance of being blacklisted. I agree with you. I would think about that if I were a recruiter as well, because it doesn't look truthful. Shubham,
And they're
you've
all connected now, so they all know. Once
yeah,
one knows, they all know.
absolutely.
One thing I can suggest,
Yeah.
and I've had many clients who've had great success for this, in a point of transition, right, where the company is saying, we're going to have to let you go. Often at that stage, you can negotiate a few things. One of the things that costs the company nothing, but has value to them, is sometimes at that point you can negotiate, may I represent myself as a consultant to the company until I land my next opportunity. And in trade for that value, I will give the company back 10 hours a month that they can ask me any questions they need to find out where everything is buried, right? Many companies will do that because consultant to the company, that's pretty vague, right? It doesn't have to be verifiable by HR. It's consultant to the company. Get it in writing. Often they will do that to get you to sign that nice little agreement at the end because they want everything wrapped up, right, legally. Often they will do that for that value, and then you can put same company, new position, consultant, keeps you all set up within LinkedIn. It's honest and has great value. Again, get it in writing so that, you know, if you have to show somebody that or whatever that might be, you have it available and you've got your proof. That is extremely effective way to do that, but you have to do it before you sign kind of any of the releases.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you. I have a question here that I see that Meenakshi has asked Kevin. And first of all, thank you for sharing that earlier tip about consultant. I've never thought about that. It's never occurred to me. So that's very useful. If it works, then we got to try it if it works. How do I show a previous employer who has gone under since then?
You know that, and again, that's one of those difficult things. There's a couple options. If you know enough people in the company, right, you can communicate with them, build the business page, right, let everybody else in the company know, and then everybody links to that business page. And on the business page, it actually says, company went bankrupt, you know, at this date, right, or closed doors at this date. So you're being very honest. You're presenting it in the right light, but you can actually create the company page. You can load a logo. LinkedIn will allow you to do that. At the top navigation bar, if you go all the way over to, there's a little box of small boxes. You click on that. At the very bottom of the drop down is create a business page. That's where you would do it. That's the easiest way. There's nobody at that company who's going to come back and say, hey, you put together a page for my company, because the company's out of business, right? So that one's an easy one.
Yeah.
The other one is if it was acquired by, that's where we use that hack where we use the new company logo and we type over the information when it pulls over. We type over something acquired by this company. And that's explained in those links. So there's more information there to make that a little easier.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's very useful. Then I have another question here, because before I get to my questions, there's a lot of participation here, which is great. We're so happy you guys are here.
I don't know how you do all this.
I'm sorry?
I don't know how you do all this at one time. You're amazing.
Thank you.
I can't look at them anymore.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun, but it's not perfect. There are times when the live stream is over and I'm like, oh, I missed this question, but you know, can't see everything at the same time. So Inda is in Indonesia, and she says, for beginners, what are good topics to share? How do we focus? Okay, Inda, I think what you're asking is what are the important things to keep in mind? And I think I see that we have other questions, but let's go to this one, because I had this anyway, sort of question with you, because I had another person from Indonesia, Ilmi, in my post 2 days ago, and she had asked, top 2, top 3 things that all of us need to pay attention to when it comes to our LinkedIn profile. Some of it is repeated, but I think repetition is good. We need a little bit of reminding on things like the headline, the about section. She had specific questions, and I think it'll help everyone. The work history. She asked about the headline. Does it have to be sort of job title, or does it have to be like a statement? Some people write their mission. Ilmi, you had this question. I don't know if you're watching, but Kevin, I know you're going to say that you want to be searchable. So
Absolutely.
use those keywords, but give us it. I want to hear this in your words.
But and you know the headline, I actually call it a tagline, right?
Yeah.
It is a description of what value do you bring to the table.
Yes.
If you take the LinkedIn default of position at company, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're CEO at Nike or CEO
Yeah.
at Coca-Cola, it's probably not going to have a lot of excitement in it, right?
No.
So don't take that default. But I also think that sometimes using the title that you currently have, or even the one that you want, within the mix of the headline is a good thing,
Yes.
because that headline is one of the strongest SEO placements within LinkedIn. So, for two reasons. One is the database is looking at that for the right words. But then when you come up in a search, when people look down a page, they're reading it and making a decision whether they click onto your profile or not. So I always say it should tell them what value you bring to the table using keywords that are really important in the job that you want next, right? Where you're going. So you want to make sure you're bringing in there. I prefer something that's a little more conversational as opposed to just keywords in a row, right? I like it to say something. And I think that's important as well.
Yeah.
There are people who have some formulas to it, but I think it just needs to fit you as an individual.
Yes.
We were restricted to 120 spaces up to, right? And they say up to because an I takes less room than a W, right? That's why they say up to. So some of you get a little bit more or less. Now we have 220.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean you need to use all 220.
Yes. Yes.
Use what you can to get the statement across, right? And concise is always better than lengthy, right? In that sense, but don't be afraid to use most of that because it will help you be found.
Yes. Okay. Amazing. Thank you. Ilmi is watching, so she says thank you because she had this question, and I did a little digging, and it turns out this is our friend Bob McIntosh.
Oh, fantastic.
So Bob, it's in your settings. You're appearing as a private user on LinkedIn, which is why you appear you appear nameless here. And you said something related to headline. I was trying to remember what you said. You don't have to use up the full character limit. You want to be found. It is the most important aspect of your profile right after your picture. We don't need to talk about the picture. It's obvious, but do have a picture. Makes a big difference. Your chances of being found are higher. And there was another question I had. So I just want to finish this because we had the headline, the about section, tell a story, career journey. You have any views on that one?
You know, I'm always amazed how many profiles do not have anything in the about section, or they have very little in the about section. The about section is an area where you've got up to 2,600 spaces to tell your story.
Yeah.
To me, it's almost like a bio in a sense, right? You want to lead them from, not knowing you at all to feeling like you have a value and you could help them in that process. The thing to avoid in the about section is what we call the word wall, right? Where you just, boom. I mean, you use all 2,600 spaces and it's going to be solid text. Nobody will read that.
Yeah.
So on the internet, we like to read in chunks. 3 to 5 lines is the most you can get someone to read.
Yeah.
Before you go into maybe, let's say, bullets, right? You can do 3 to 5 bullets, and then you can do another chunk, and you can do that kind of process. If you can split it up visually, it will work better for you. More people will read it. And one of the things I find fascinating, and many people don't realize this, is there are visual psychologies in reading.
Yeah.
On the internet. So if you're going to use bullets, right? If you use them in a staggered format, only 10% of the people will read all the bullets. If you take those same bullets and you put the longest one at the top, and in descending order, the shortest one at the bottom, 90% of the people will read all of the bullets. And that is actually
Oh.
something, it was a technique that was, I guess, honed in with spam email. And it's called the flying F. And if you go to my profile, you'll actually see my bullets are in a flying F, because more people will read them than if they're staggered. And so little things like that are huge in the way they process. So there's my flying Fs.
That is so interesting. So that's an F, in case anybody's wondering. So we're in Kevin's about section. We like to get our hands a little dirty here on Super Chat Fridays.
Before my bullets, and I
Yeah.
do use an emoji bullet, but I try to make it consistent all the way down.
Yeah.
Before my bullets is a hard-coded space.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants that hard-coded space, just go copy the space in front of mine. If you don't know how to hard-code a space.
Why do you do that, Kevin? The space here?
Just
Any
to give
reason?
it a visual effect, right?
Okay.
It's more pleasing to the eye than if those bullets were hit towards the wall.
Right.
It makes you attracted to them. So I can visually space things
Okay.
by using a hard-coded space. You can just copy that hard-coded space off
On
mine
your
and you can use it on yours.
Awesome.
The other thing I believe that you should do in this section is have a call to action.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're interested in brainstorming on, you know, give them a few bullets and then give them a way to contact you.
Exactly.
Right?
For lazy
that way,
people.
when they're done and they're excited about what you're doing,
yeah,
they will reach out to you.
Yeah. I mean, we can still reach out. You know, if I'm interested in getting in touch with Kevin, I can still do contact. Everything is there. Yeah. But the point is, why do we want to do that? Why not reduce friction as much as possible and make it seamless to reach out for the ideal person to reach out to?
One thing I will tell you on contact, you can put your email in there and your phone number in there. But what you want to do is you want to parse them, use them a little differently so that they are not scraped by these Autobots, right? That are scraping for emails, they're scraping for phone numbers so they can send you spam, right?
Oh, okay.
So if you parse the email like I've done, it's technically not an email anymore. But
because you have space there.
Visually, you can see it, you can copy it, take the space out, and you can send me an email. My phone number is technically not formatted correctly. It has the +1 for US, right?
Yes.
But there isn't a +1 negative number. That doesn't get picked up as a phone number, so I don't get any spam calls from that. I've had it this way for over 15 years.
Yeah, and you haven't
had a single issue with it.
Awesome.
So,
thank you.
You know, this is the right way to do it, and that keeps, you know, things from getting messy. But one thing I did want to do, if you will go to the top of our page, to me, one of the biggest issues I see with profiles is that people are accepting the default background banner.
No, right? I know. Yeah.
And that, to me, sends a message. They always say a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
picture is working for you or against you 24/7. If you take the default, that's the message you're giving everybody 24/7 is I do the default.
Yeah.
That's probably not a good value message, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, create a background banner. There's a lot of ways to do it. Canva is a free opportunity that you can use to create one. But place that up there. Make sure it helps people get a feel for your value. So some things you should avoid, like a picture of downtown, right?
Yeah, very generic. Or mountain.
The
Nothing
signal,
wrong with it, but
the signal it sends to a recruiter sometimes is Sonal is only, you know, Belgium-based. She might not grow with the company that's now based in the UK, right? So she may not be able to grow and go to the headquarters because she is just here. So watch out the signal. Don't use things like beaches or fly fishing in Montana, because that tells the company I'd rather be on the beach or fly fishing in Montana than working for you. Unless you're in the travel industry, right? So
again,
make it work for you. The other thing you can do, and you see it in mine, is you can put your contact information in there.
Yeah.
So again, make it easier on those coming to your profile to be able to reach out to you.
Yes.
Now,
Absolutely.
if you're currently with a company, one of the smartest things you can do on LinkedIn right now is build the company brand into your own brand, okay, for a couple of reasons. So you want to maybe in the background banner have the company logo, right? Or use the company banner off the company site, right? The reason you do that is it drops internal red flags. Oh, Sonal has just updated her whole profile, but she's also selling the company. So she's okay, right? So it reduces internal red flags. And believe it or not, it makes you more attractive to recruiters because what they're being paid, right, to steal you away from the competition. So if you show you are company loyal, you are more in demand by other companies.
Yeah.
So use it to kind of help you stay safe at work, but also be more attractive everywhere else. So I'd say, you bring a little of that company branding into your background banner, into your about section. You can even put it into your headline if it's a good company. You know, it can be part of that brand as well.
Sure.
One other thing while we're here is pictures are incredibly important. You know, in the profile, make sure it represents you today. Hopefully, I look like I look on my profile if I do this, right?
Yes, you do.
But, you know, they should look like you so that when you show up to a meeting or you get on Zoom or whatever that is, or they meet you in public, they don't think, who's that?
Yeah.
Right?
No,
They
yeah.
need to be able to recognize you, keep it current.
Yeah.
One thing you can do to keep safe, and mine is an extreme example, not the best example, is what we call a one ear. Just turn slightly, right? Still make connection, but turn slightly, one ear. I cannot use that photograph for a passport or to fake a driver's license. So it's kind of an ID theft proof way to keep yourself safe on the internet. Always turn just a little bit, and that keeps that from being stolen, right?
I see.
And that's mine's just extreme. I was having fun.
No, but it's good to know. You know, show your good side. Look at the cam. Don't even look at the camera. Show your good side, but a little bit, and then obviously do look at the camera because your eyes matter.
Believe it or not, body position is also critical. If you look at the way my body is facing, it is facing towards the center of my profile, towards my information, right? If I was turned the other way, I would be looking off my profile. And psychologically, when a viewer lands on your page, if you're looking off your profile, you are disinterested, so they become disinterested.
What?
It is the psychology of how we see things. If you open up an ad in a magazine, right? People don't look out of the ad; they look into the ad, right? They pull you in by their eyes and their body direction. You want to do the same thing. That's what LinkedIn is. It is basically your productization, your presentation, right? So you want to keep all these little things in thought. And sometimes it's the simple, small things that make the huge difference.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm going to stop sharing because I'm like blown away right now. If you guys are blown away, give lots of little hearts and little applauses. This is amazing stuff that you would not have heard, you know, from just about anywhere. This is somebody who knows LinkedIn inside out. So this is brilliant stuff. Kevin, appreciate you sharing. I'm going to jump into the comments because there's like lots of action going on in there. Lauren's here. Hey, Lauren. So Zarina, we talked a lot about visibility. In fact, everything that we're talking about today is related to visibility. If you're joining us a little late, not a problem, but do watch the replay. And spaces and characters. Yeah, I was blown away. And Shubham, I saw that you did a recap of everything that Kevin said. So thank you for sharing that. It was a gigantic paragraph, but there's more where that came from. So I'm going to make sure I post it in the comments when we're done with the live stream. Yeah, the flying F, when you said that, I thought you were cursing, Kevin.
Well, spammers do curse, I'm sure. That's where it did come from. That's probably what it technically means, but you can see the visual F shape.
Yeah, and it's like a wave. No, it's super interesting. Even I didn't know this, Zarina, so this is something interesting I've learned.
Well, now that you know it, you will notice when you see things, you will respond to that. And when you see like marketing emails sent to you, you will notice they're done that way. And that is that's the psychology behind how we accept information.
Okay, I'm going to pay
We always
attention to
want to use it for our own benefit, right?
for our own benefit. Why not? It, absolutely. Especially now that we've learned it from you today, we're going to apply it. Everything here is applicable and implementable. And I think this is Bob again, because he also talked a little bit earlier about, he made a comment, and you when you said about consulting, if you're volunteering, that's also an occupation. It's work.
Mhm.
So if you're not working, but you're volunteering, put that in there. You're not getting paid. It's not the point. You're getting paid in a hug, maybe a virtual hug. I don't know. It's the point is you're busy and you're
Often
doing.
too, if you're again in transition, right? If you volunteer for an organization, sometimes you are able to use skills, right, that you
Mm-hmm.
have not been able to perfect in the business world that you have. You can show that value in a volunteer opportunity, and that can also fill that gap, right? So I volunteered for 20 something years at American Red Cross and the
Mm-hmm.
International
Hmm.
Red Cross. I
Yeah.
could put that as a gap fill, and I could show what I was doing in there that had the skills, right, that I wanted to relate, that moves me forward into what that next opportunity might be. So volunteering is really important. Many companies are looking for employees who do that because it shows you have passion and compassion and everything else. And
Absolutely.
again, you can use it as your stopgap during
Yeah.
this process.
Yeah.
Education is another thing. If you go back to school
Yeah.
while
No,
you're out of work, you can
I
use
agree.
that as a holding spot.
Absolutely. And I agree about volunteering because there was a study on LinkedIn a few years ago, and hiring managers constitute volunteering at the same level as paid work,
Yeah,
which is a great piece of news. And I
absolutely.
think this is Bob who's talking about the about section. It is prime real estate, Bob. I could not agree with you more. And it is infuriating for me when it's written in 3 lines and it's the standard template demonstrated experience in this sector, that one which is default, which everyone has. It's a pity because we have all
Yeah.
this space. We don't have to use up the entire 2600 characters, but at least why should you care? What can I do for you? This is how you can reach me. And it's not even about me, even though it's called about section. It's more your, like, what's in it for the person who's reading, right? And it's a waste of marketing material if it's not used. And storytelling is very important as well. Shubham, absolutely agree with you. And there's a way to do it in the sense that um, visually appealing. Yes, absolutely. That's where Kevin has come in. Yeah, brilliant, Kevin. I highly encourage everyone who's watching today to follow Kevin. He's beyond the 30,000 connections, but at least follow him for more such brilliant tips. If he's come on for an hour and he's dropping so many gems, imagine what he's been doing for the last 15 years. So absolutely love that. Kevin, quick question. There was somebody also asked about the, and Meenakshi, I'm going to come to you, about the green crescent open to work. We've talked about it here a couple of weeks ago, but I wanted to know your opinion on it.
To me, it's a double-edged sword,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It does tell everybody within your network, if you turn it on to tell everybody in my network, right? It does let them all know that you are in the process of looking for something else.
Mm-hmm.
But it does, from what I can tell, because I do have access to talent solutions, it kind of takes you out of the running for anything that a recruiter might want, as far as an option. So it takes you out of that process. So if being recruited is important, and for some people it's not, for some people it very much is, then that particular item will take you out of that. Okay. If you are just putting the option of just recruiters, it doesn't take you out of talent solutions as an option, right? But it doesn't notify the whole network. Now, one advantage I think to the open to network, the open to work green banner piece is if you select it, when you go ready to submit, it gives you the option to post a message to your network, right?
It's 8 o'clock.
This is the only time on LinkedIn where every single person in your network will receive that post in their feed. You can turn it on, write that post, and think about it like a PR press release, right? Overwrite what they put, reaching out, blah, 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 looking for this, this is what I bring to the table, those kind of things. Do that, post it, and then go back and turn off the green banner. You now just got a free, public relations post, right, to everybody in your network. And if anybody in your network likes it in any way or comments on it in any way, it goes to everybody in their network. And that's one thing that people don't realize. On LinkedIn, if you post something, normally it only goes out to a small percentage of your network, and they see how it does. It's your more active network. And if they do well, then they put it out to a few more, and then they put it out to a few more. Rarely do you ever get to your whole network except for that one feature.
Right.
So I know some people who are using it as just that, a PR release that they know they can do a post that goes out to every single person in their network. That's another kind of small hack. Way to use it. Yeah.
I didn't know that. So if you're unemployed and if you want to use that feature, my personal opinion here, Kevin, I don't know if you agree, but do it once.
Yeah.
You get one opportunity. Don't screw it up. But in the sense that, and then, have these weekly announcements. Hey, everyone, I'm looking for a job. I feel like we get like one chance to do that and do it properly.
Yeah. Otherwise, you start to look desperate.
Yeah, and there is a bias there.
Value changes, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Lauren has some great questions here. Lauren, I'm coming to you. I'm coming. When you were talking about the picture and she was like direct eye contact, I've also heard that, looking in the eyes, because I feel like the trust comes from there. But you're saying you still show your eyes, but
you're doing it right now. You've turned your head a little bit, but you still have direct eye contact.
My good side. Yeah.
That's perfect. And you can move your body so it's moving towards the middle of your profile.
Yeah.
That guides them in and shows them that you're excited as well. You're still making the connectivity with the eyes, but you're also protecting yourself from ID theft.
ID theft. That's a real thing.
And you don't look like everybody else who's the straight on, post office criminal shot. Everybody has something to do the first time they post, right?
Got it.
And again, I know people who change their profile picture weekly.
Because of this?
Yeah, well, just for fun, even.
Yeah.
So they just change it up. But, again, make sure it represents you, but make sure it's safe and that it also gives people the notion that you're excited that they're there.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, we're on top of the hour. We're getting a lot of thank yous from you, from all over, thanking you.
And we didn't even touch on half the stuff.
I know. I had so many questions, and maybe we have to bring you back for a part 2, because honestly, this is a topic that's never ending. What about live sessions like this? What about them, Susanna? I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question. But I do feel like Risto says he has to rewatch it, because I think I have to also rewatch it. There's a lot going on. But Kevin, there's one quick question I have, and Lauren had about. Would you be okay if just?
Yeah, absolutely. My time's yours today.
Yeah, awesome. And has the sun risen in Dallas? Is it up?
It's up, but it's cloudy today. So I would normally show you, because normally it's a gorgeous sunrise on downtown. Too many clouds.
Dallas. Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking of that TV show, Dallas, with the music from the 70s and the 80s.
I worked in that gold building when I was in venture capital. I worked in that gold building that they always show as they're flying through down the highway, and there's two big gold buildings.
Yeah.
I worked on the top floor in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're coming close to the end, guys. But if you had like a really pressing question and I haven't seen it, which is likely because my window here is quite small, do post it again so I see it. But I'm going to come to this question that I think, Lauren, is very helpful to many people, and that is about storytelling in the about section versus boring descriptive details. Even if we have great details, most tend to be very boring. Kevin, help us jazz it up a little bit.
Well, absolutely. I mean, again, this is your product presentation, right? You're trying to get them fascinated, interested, and you also want to get them to go and read down below in that work section that's maybe a little drier, right?
Yeah, I'm going to pause you. I just love what you said. This is your product presentation. I've never heard anybody talk about the about section that way. You are the product, and this is your product presentation. Just let that sink for a second, whoever's watching. So yes, Kevin, go on, please.
The one thing I find in this section, storytelling is important because you want to lead them through a process and show them that you have that great value, right?
Yeah.
The one thing I notice is people try to put too many details in there, right? And if you give me all the details, I don't have to go look below.
Mm-hmm.
If you give me things or like teasers, right? Led a team of 200 to, increase the markets into 140 countries. If you say something like that, I now have to go down below in your work section to find out where you did that because I'm fascinated, right? Instead of you told me what company and what the product was and how much, you give me too much. There is a fine balance in telling too much information to the point where you got me excited, you answered my questions, and I have none left for you. What you really want to do is get them excited, answer some of their top questions, but create more questions in their mind that they have to talk to you to find out.
What's that balance, Kevin? If you could give us a ratio.
Again, concise is always better. I think it was Winston Churchill who said, if you want a 2-hour inspirational presentation, I'm ready right now. If you need a 15-minute one, that's going to take me 2 weeks to prepare. So it does take time, but if you can make it concise, it has more power, and that's what you need to get across. Within that storytelling, again, keep some white space in there. Don't do that wall because nobody's going to read your story except for your mom, right? Yeah. They're the only ones who love you enough to read the whole story. You got to get them excited. And again, don't give all of it away, but give enough of it away that they've got to go find more down below, or they've got to contact you to get that moving forward.
Okay. Amazing. Amazing.
May I add one thing if I could?
Please.
And that is networking always beats not working, right?
Ooh, that is one second. That is a tweetable.
But always do it in the sense of, social currency, right? That's what we're trying to build so that we can cash in on the social currency ultimately, right? It is always built on the gold standards of sharing, caring, and reciprocity. Take care of those who take care of you, share value, right? And care about your group, and it will build for you. Don't go out and blister people, argue with people, do, just naughty things, right, on social media. Because believe it or not only do people look for that to discount you, but now there's actually algorithms. There are programs out there that are searching on you and giving risk ratios to say if you're a good or bad player based on the way you behave now in social media.
What?
So, yes. So if you're somebody who flames people all the time and you go to an interview with 2 other people who support people all the time, they are going to be ahead of you in this kind of new risk equation.
Who's doing? I'm feeling like
Google is one of the bigger
Hollywood, like it's a Hollywood movie. Who's doing these risk analysis?
Google HR was one of the biggest ones doing that. And so they were following you, watching what you do, how you react, so that they could tell a company, would you be a good hire? Would you fit their culture? Right? And if you're always making trouble, then you're not going to be that good hire. Now, that doesn't mean you can't disagree, but you can disagree respectfully and you can bring value. And I always say, you should always listen to learn, not listen to figure out what you're going to say next. Do the same thing when you're on the internet, engage to learn, not to figure out what you're going to tell them next. And hopefully we all evolve that way a lot better. But again, watch out what you do out there, because now it is being done with AI and it's becoming part of your digital presentation that companies are buying into to make better employee choices. So if you've been bad out there, clean it up and go forward in a new way where you're building that social currency.
Yeah, absolutely. And networking beats not working. I love that takeaway because there's so many. Sorry, what was
Neither
that?
one is easy, right? Neither one's easy, but networking always beats not working.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, we
And
could
now
go
we can
on.
do it digitally.
Yeah. We could go on, and I think there is a couple of people who are already like, yeah, Kevin, for part two, we'll do this in a few weeks' time. We definitely need to, because I think we haven't even touched
Part
the
two, though, it has to be 7 a.m. your time.
7 a.m. my time is like midnight for you. I seriously doubt it. But
Still be more active.
yeah, but Malathi, I say this to all my clients: you are the product, and your resume is the brochure. But today, and you're a product manager, and you're saying that, so that's amazing. But today, I even learned the fact that your product presentation, the way Kevin, the way you described it, it makes perfect sense, and I can feel it. Like people's brains are going, so do give us lots of hearts and lots of applauses for Kevin. Like that's the least we can do, who just been so generous with his time. And yes, Rajiv, we all had to go some digital cleansing right now. Take some breaks and do that.
I'm going
Big
to
brother.
check out Rajib, see what he's been doing.
Exactly. It's like, no, it makes a lot of sense because we're so much online. This year, I believe half the world is online. So it makes a lot of sense. We do have a digital footprint. And is that a nice footprint? Is it a sleazy footprint? And there's all kinds of crime going on. So I like those tips that you shared to prevent cybercrime and discouraging all of that. Um, um, Rahul, I think this is broke our business. No, I don't think so. It's about packaging. Rahul, how if the business is not working anymore, an employer who has a problem with you because your business is not working anymore, that employer is not somebody you want to be working with. I just want to say that. But it's all about how you prepare it, how you present it. So pay attention, watch the replay, Rahul, because there's lots of tips that Kevin shared on how you can talk about yourself in the about section, in the headline, in the banner, details that personally I haven't thought about before. So love that. Kevin, any last words?
Last word. Follow me. I'll follow
Yeah,
you. We'll
yeah.
have fun. Let's engage and grow each other's opportunities. That's what
Yeah,
we do.
absolutely. And reach out to Kevin, follow him, and if you want to work with him, send him an email. I mean, his email address is there. Don't copy paste it because Kevin's very clever about it. And yeah, continue to network, continue to engage with your audience. LinkedIn gives lots of good points for that. And Kevin, you said networking always beats not working. So with that said, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's been here with us today.
Thank you.
Wish you a lovely weekend and really appreciate your time. Bye, guys.
See you. Thank you.